Hi and welcome to a new video. In this video I am going to show you in 20 minutes how you can teach your dog the perfect independent slalom in less than 2 months. You can all do it in your own backyard and you don't need a lot of agility equipment. In the description of the video you will find the list of everything that you need. A dog would be very convenient. Our star of the day is Winnie. Some slalom poles, candy, a clicker, and in case your dog likes toys, a toy.
This video is especially for the people that want to train at home and don't have full agility equipment available. It is not only for dogs that do not know the slalom yet, it is also for dogs that, for example, do the slalom very slowly or constantly look up in the slalom. This method is very much focused on focus forward for the dog, so the dog slaloms independently without needing your help.
The first step is to put the poles in the ground. The distance between the poles is not that important, but it should be a little bit more than 60 centimeters. This is how I start.
Goed zo, yeah, good girl. Good girl. Good girl. As you can see, Winnie already knows this. The thing is to let the dog think itself, good girl, and not help too much. Because I believe the dog learns best when it thinks instead of following a hand and a candy. If you don't work with a clicker, you can just work with a reward word, a clicker word. Something like yes or good girl, whatever you use. Yes, good girl.
As you can see here, I basically lure the dog in the right start position so it ends up with its nose in front of the slalom.
Good girl. Goed zo. We try the other side as well. Ja, super. Yes, good girl. If your dog is new to this, don't try to really guide the dog like this. Because the dog is now just following my hand and learning nothing from this. Instead of that, try to move the dog in the right direction by walking or moving yourself, and when it accidentally walks through the poles, then you reward. Yes, good girl! Something like this. Oopsie! We never say no. Yes, good girl! Don't try to say no when the dog does wrong. That sounds very negative and we want this to be a positive experience. So we just say something like, oopsie. Yes, good girl, super. As you could see in the previous session, Winnie looked very much towards me. And we want to prevent the dog looking up to me after every pole. So we're going to add a toy as a reward. The general rule is if we want the dogs to think, we use food. If we want speed, we use toys. There are several options for this. Los. Yes, good girl. Always throw away from you, so you can create a focus forward for the dog. Yeah, super. Good girl. Good girl. Kom hier. Kom hier. Yeah. Goed zo. With this option, you need to make sure the dog goes in the direction that you want. If the dog passes the poles and then still gets the toy, it's still a reward. Ja, voor. Goed zo. Good girl. Ja, palen, palen. Goed zo. You can now add your cue for the weave poles. I always use palen for the dogs to go in. And when they are in, I start using go, 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 go. Important is that you think of a word that you can keep up with 12 weave poles. Some people, for example, use shh. But when you stop using shh at the 10th weave pole, the dog thinks it's done. So that's why I would suggest to use a word that you can use for 12 weave poles when you're running a course. In this case, there's not much to weave yet, so I will only use palen and later on I will add the go, 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 go. If your dog is not so much into toys, you can of course keep using food. To create the focus forward, which we can create with a ball or another type of toy, we can use a little food ball for the dog to run towards too. If you are kind of sure that the dog goes in the right direction, you can already put the candy in the bowl. If you're not so sure yet, you can lay the candy in the bowl when the dog finishes the slalom. Well, that's what I mean. She ate it, well, she did it right, but in case the dog didn't, it's still rewarded. Wachten. Ja, palen, palen. Good girl. Ja, palen, palen. Good girl, good girl. Also make sure to create a realistic setting. In competition or a full course, you will be running next to the dog. So we need the dog to get used to us moving. Ja, palen, palen. Good girl. As you can see, Winnie's focus is very much towards the ball. So that makes sure that I can run next to her without stepping on her and her looking at me. Also, I point with my finger because that's what I usually do in a course. So I want the dog to get used to that as well. You're such a naughty dog. Yeah, you're such a naughty dog. Wachten. You're impatient. Wachten. Ja, palen, palen. Good girl. Super.
It is now time to add 2 extra poles.
So now we have a square. Well, not exactly a square. The distance between the poles in an official weave pole is 60 centimeters. So in this case, we want the distance between those two to be 120 centimeters. Pro tip, measure your foot so you exactly know how many steps you need to create 60 or 120 centimeters. The idea is that these 2 poles move more and more towards a real slalom. So it will go like this. This is the first step. The next step will be this. The next step will be this, 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 and the end result will be your dog can do 4 weave poles. In the end, of course, we need to go to 12, but those are the next steps. We will start with just 4. So basically the next step is exactly the same as the previous step, only we have now 4 poles instead of 2. Wachten. Ja, palen, palen. Good girl. Super. Oei! That was wrong. She missed the first pole, but yet she ate the candy. Oei! This was a little bit too much of a movement for her. Movement distracts the dog, so as long as your dog cannot handle movement, don't add movement. Ja, palen, palen. Yes, good girl! As Winnie already has 9 years experience with weave poles, she doesn't understand that you just need to run through them. She thinks she needs to weave, so that's a challenge for her. Yeah. Whenever the step is a little bit too difficult, just go back to the previous step. The idea is that your dog does maximum 3 mistakes in a row. After that, you can definitely say it's too difficult for the dog, so you need to do a step back. Remember, the dog is doing this only for you, not because he likes itself so much. So make sure it's a fun experience for him. 4. Goed zo, super girl. After a few mistakes, I went 1 step back, and as you see, she did it perfectly. The dog doesn't always start the slalom from standing still, so we can also add some movement before the slalom. In case you have a jump or a wing, you can use that. In case you have a cone, you can use that. And in case you only have this and you go outside, you can use a tree or whatever. In this case, I will use a wing because I have wings, but in the past I trained the slalom with Lexi and Macy just on a field next to our apartment, and there were only trees, so that's what we used back then. 4. Yes, good girl, super! For Winnie it's too confusing to use palen, so I'll just use 4, which means go straight forward. 4. Goed zo, super! 4. Yes, good girl! A common mistake is that the dog is not in the right start position to start the slalom. For that reason, I taught my dogs to go around my legs, so I can make sure they approach the slalom in the right way. This is a trick I can teach you later. 4. Yes, good girl! Yes, good girl! Super! If your dog is, for example, in this position, it's very difficult to get the dog to approach the slalom in the right way. For example, like this. Yeah, you see it, it's not working. So for that reason, make sure the dog always has a fair approach to the slalom. The dog will not always have a straight approach to the slalom. Especially in grade 2 and grade 3 competitions, it's a challenge to have the slalom entry as difficult as possible sometimes. So for that reason, we early start with the dogs teaching different approaches of the slalom. You start easy. In the first examples, Winnie started in front of the slalom, so basically nothing could go wrong. Now we challenge her a little bit more and we place her in a little angle for the start of the slalom. Yeah. Yes, good girl. Yeah. Super, super good girl. Oei, bijna. Yes, good girl. When the dog fully understands this part of the slalom, it's time to go to the next step. Always remember, the dog always enters the slalom on the right side of the first pole. This is always the same, so we immediately start introducing that to the dogs. So when you are in front of your square, make sure you always move the right poles. I'll show you.
It will probably look like abacadabra for you, but later on you will definitely understand.
So later on, this and the other orange pole will go, as I showed you previously, more in and in and in and in and in and in and in, until it is on one straight line. In that case, if this is the entrance of the slalom, the dog enters on the right side of the first pole and slaloms like this. So that's why it is important, if you use this 2x2 method, that you always move the poles on the right of the square.
This is a drawing how it looks like. Step 1 and step 2 we have done by now. We are now at the point of step 3. As you can see in step 4 and step 5, the poles that are on the drawing on the left side, from the dog's point of view on the right side, move more and more towards each other. And this is what we are aiming for. The poles are in a straight line and the dog's slaloms in between.
I haven't really measured now. In this big square it's not so important, but later on it will get more and more important that the distance between those poles is still 120 centimeters and the distance between those two poles is also 120 centimeters.
Here I'll show you how step 3 actually looks like.
Good girl. Good girl. Super. Always train both left and right side of the slalom. You can also start with a rear cross behind the dog when the dog goes into the slalom. Me crossing behind their backs when they start a slalom. So that's what I want to train from the early beginning. Rechts. Yes, good girl. When your dog fully understands this from all kinds of angles, all kinds of entrance, all kinds of exits, it's time to proceed to the next step, and that is moving those two poles closer to the other poles. Do it gradually. If you make it too difficult, the dog will not understand it anymore, lose motivation, become slow, loses interest in the slalom, all kinds of things we don't want. Building confidence is the key in agility. Missed the last one. Rewarded too early. Oei, bijna. Bijna. The approach angle was too difficult for her. She missed the last pole 2 times, so I'll make the approach angle a little bit easier for her. Oei, bijna. An approach from this side is called a closed entry because the dog always has to go around the first pole, which is easy for the dogs to find. An entrance from this side is called an open entrance. Oi! You missed the first one! Oh yes! Good girl! Super! Wowie! She always takes a tour around the garden with her reward. So now we're heading on to the next step. We move the poles closer to each other. I will skip some steps now because my dog already knows this. She's getting a little bit tired, so I want to finish this with her. But make sure you follow the schedule of your dog. Don't go too close. If it's too difficult, you just open up again a little bit. As you can see, Winnie is mastering this skill very well. So now it's time to move the poles even closer to each other. In this case, I will go and make a straight line for her because, as I said, she's getting a bit tired and she already knows how to slalom. So I will do that. But between the distance that you just saw in the video and the distance I'm going to put them now, your dog might need more steps between the position where the pole is now and the end result. So as I said earlier, please give the dog the time that it needs. For example, Macy took a very long time from the last 2-3 centimeters until the poles were in a straight line. It took her a very long time, but as I said, that is fine. Every dog learns at his own pace. Especially now, it's important that the poles are 60 centimeters out of each other. As I measured my footsteps, I know it's 2.5 steps for me. Yeah, pale, pale, go, 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 go. Yes, good. Yeah, pale, pale, go, 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 go. Yes, good girl. As I said earlier, make sure your dog is in a fair start position. As you can see, I always send her around my legs because that's a skill she can do very well and it's very convenient for us. But in case your dog cannot do that, for example like this, you cannot ask her to go in the slalom. I'll try. Pale, 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 pale. As you can see, she doesn't understand anything out of it. I'm waiting until she looks at the slalom because when she's looking up to me, she cannot find the slalom. Sometimes I point towards it. Pale, pale, pale. Yes, good.
I will now go back to rewarding with candy to show you different options of rewarding.
Pale, 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 go, 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 go. Good, good. So that's the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. Winnie is done. So this is the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please comment below the video so I can answer your questions. If you have problems with the slalom yourself, you're trying this and you don't know how to fix a problem, you're always welcome to send me a video in Instagram or Facebook and I can look at the video and help you to see what is going wrong. If you are currently training in a group where they also teach you the slalom, for example with channel wires or even without channel wires but with the channel method, you don't have to stop that when you're training with this slalom, the 2x2 method. I also noticed when Winnie was young that when she managed to do this slalom, 12 poles, and she proceeded to a slalom with a metal strip on the ground, which was found in our training club, she was very much confused by the metal strip on the ground. And with this method, you just teach your dog the slalom a little bit faster than that 1 week training you have on the club. So as I said, I think those two methods can perfectly go together. In the next video, I'll show you how to proceed because this is only 4 poles and as you know, the slalom has 12 poles. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you cannot miss the next video.